Hi, I'm Michael Gillett. I've recently authored a book about feature management with LaunchDarkly, and I'm head of development at a global company based in London. Today, I want to talk about the ways in which I think the Dora metrics and feature management are a brilliant combination. And I've used feature management for a number of years, and today I want to share with you the experiences that I've had and some of the ways in which feature management has really enabled us to accelerate the way that we work and improve the Dora metrics that we follow. Share my screen. So the first thing I want to talk about are the 4 Dora metrics, just to make sure that we're all on the same page with them and refresh anyone's mind if you've forgotten what they are. Dora stands for DevOps Research and Assessment Team, and they've taken a look over the past few years at understanding how the kind of DevOps landscape looks and what does a high-performing team versus a low-performing team look like. And from that, they were able to pull together these 4 metrics. The first being deployment frequency. How often can deployments be made? The second is mean lead time for changes. How long does a piece of work take to go from a developer's machine, from the idea, writing it, committing it, pull requests, all of that good stuff, and getting to production? The third is the change failure rate. So how often of all of these deployments does that change result in a failure? And then finally is the mean time to recovery. So when something has gone wrong, how long does it take to recover from that? Let's just first look at the deployment frequency. So as I said, that the Dora team have identified what a high-performing team and what a low-performing team look like. And actually, this is really just a spectrum, and we might be able to place ourselves on this spectrum. And it's useful to understand this because it does show the level to which our DevOps maturity is. And that's useful to know. And it also gives us something to work towards when we identify where we sit on this spectrum. And a high-performing team for a deployment frequency metric is actually they can deploy on demand whenever they need. So that could be multiple times a day, or it might just be one time a day. But the point is, it's whenever they need to release, they can release without things kind of getting in the way and the processes taking so long. Whereas a low-performing team, it may be once every 1 to 6 months. And we're all going to be somewhere on this spectrum. The second one, mean lead time for changes, again, it's a spectrum, but this time it's where it's less than a day for that work to be done, to be committed, to go through the various quality gates, code reviews, pull requests, all of that before it ends up on production. It's less than a day to do that. Whereas a low-performing team, it's actually 1 to 6 months for that change to get to production. Now, it can be a small change, it can be a massive change, but the point is, even when we're dealing with the small changes, we're still looking ideally at less than a day. Big changes, maybe you're doing kind of small iterations of work. The change failure rate, again, another spectrum, but this time what we're looking at here is that for high-performing teams, they have a change failure rate of only 0 to 15%. So of all of their releases, all of their deployments, 0 to 15% of them result in a failure in the production product. Whereas a low-performing team is actually much higher. It's between 40 and 65%. And again, I'm sure we can all look at this and kind of get a sense of where we are. Then the final one, the mean time to recovery. That's how long does it take for us to recover from an issue? Well, for high-performing teams, it's less than an hour. So a deployment's gone out, something's not right. Let's recover from that. We need to redeploy, we need to roll back, we need to do something. Okay, it's less than an hour for a high-performing team to get back to a good state. Whereas for low-performing teams, it's 1 week to 1 month. And knowing these 4 Dora metrics, understanding where we fit within these is useful to know how good we are at just kind of that whole DevOps methodology. And many of us here, if not all of us here, will be aspiring to be on the high-performing teams and believe in a good DevOps practice. And these Dora metrics are a great way to identify how mature we are with DevOps. So now let's just take a look at feature management and understand what it is by feature management that I mean, and then share with you some of the things that I've learned and some of the ways in which we've been able to improve our DORA metrics through it. So the first thing to understand with feature management is it boils down basically to a feature flag. Now, it could also be known as a feature toggle, but the idea here is that we've got a piece of code that we or an experience, and we know what that is, but we want to offer another variation of that as well. It could be a variation of improving that feature. It could be that we didn't even have the feature in the first place and that we're going to introduce a new feature. But the point is we're able to encapsulate bits of logic within our app, within the customer experience, that we can then determine when we want to turn that on. Really, it's just an if statement where we can return variation A or variation B. The important bit with a feature flagging system is how does the evaluation get determined? Now, feature flagging isn't a new concept. It's been around for a long time. It's been done via databases. It's been done via app settings, config files, all of this stuff. But what I'm really looking at today and what my experience is really about is actually a modern feature management platform. I'm experienced with LaunchDarkly. There are others out there. But when I'm talking about feature flagging, feature management, it is this idea of a modern kind of distributed feature management system that actually is doing the evaluation for us. But there's a lot more to the evaluation than it just being done by someone else. Actually, what's going on is that we are targeting a feature to a user or to a session. So we can have the